I suppose technically this is a reply video to, Dill's definition of her philosophy as a voluntarist, anarcho-market capitalism thing. But anyway, it's on the general subject of the whole market anarchy philosophy and libertarianism, radical libertarianism.
Hey, this is DoNotGod, and this is long-awaited Why I Am a Market Anarchist. I'm a voluntarist first, and I don't really have a problem with... Well, I'm a voluntarist first, and my economic model, preferably, is market anarchy.
You call it an economic model, yet I don't think there exists a model. I don't think anybody's blueprinted this market anarchy system. I don't think there's any computer models demonstrating that it wouldn't do exactly what us rational folks say it'll do, which will just turn into monarchy. It'll turn into two-class system, perpetual birthright wealth, and peasant, and that's it. And that to me is, it's something to be avoided at all costs. I'd rather see the world blow up and burn to a cinder than go back to the Dark Ages.
I don't have a problem with people having their own communist commune as long as they don't try to steal my wages or force me into their ideology. I don't have a problem with that. If people want to have their own democratic area and have a democracy in that particular area, their own property, I don't have a problem with it.
Well, that's very generous of you, but I don't understand exactly how this is ever going to work. I mean, how you could have a little communist state and then a, completely capitalist state living right next to each other. I don't think that's going to work. I think any rational person figure out that's not going to work. We can't even tolerate Cuba, and it's not connected to us. Well, see, that's the answer, though. Well, why don't you go live in some country that has low income taxes, because that's apparently the tax that bothers you the most. And so you can go to Monaco or someplace like that, and they have low income taxes, and you can do your business there.
I think that I don't want to destroy the government. I think the government could be integrated into the market better, and I think that people can have their own governments if they want, but I don't think the government has the right to force me to pay for them if I don't agree with the government in a certain area.
Well, this whole idea of only participating in government when you like what government is doing is is fairy tale. It's a nice little story, but it has no practical reality. There's no practical way to have such a government. None has ever existed. None ever could exist. It's nonsense. It's silly. That's all. It's nonsense.
And Inmendham's been saying that I am a elitist fascist, and he's an idiot because I'm an anarchist. And anarchy is diametrically opposed to fascism. Market anarchists are pacifists who don't believe in war or forced taxation or the monopoly on force used by the government. I'm against coercion. I'm against the fact that ultimately the government can seize my wages with impudence regardless of whether I agree with what their spending is. Does anyone else find it fucked up that if 51% of the population votes for something like the Iraqi war and the other 49% are forced to pay for it as well despite not supporting it? So 51% of the people say, okay, we're going to vote this person in, and we're going to force the other 49% to pay for a war they don't fucking support. And I find that use of force unacceptable.
A key component of fascism is rejection of, government by the people, the majority. They think only a part of the population should make these decisions, just as you do. You reject the idea of being told what to do by a majority. And you don't, this whole idea that government has to be compliant to your will, and that it has no right to impose any rules of civilization upon you. Yeah, it's a rejection of everything Thomas Jefferson stood for. It's a rejection of anything any civilized human being has ever stood for. As for the decision to go to war, that's always going to be a tough one, isn't it? Has anybody been happy? Everybody's always been happy about every war? No, they never will be. They'll never have that kind of consensus about something that's serious. And so what's your alternative? What's even your market anarchy system has to have a defense system of some kind, or you're going to be taken over. So who's going to decide when your defense gets initiated to do something, to act? You know, the idea that you won't act in defense of any other nation, that's your choice. Obviously we fought wars, World War II, a good example, defending other people's liberties more than our own. But most rational people would say it was an honorable thing. Even the involvement with Japan, which I didn't think was a war we needed to get into. We did that to rescue Chinese people who were being killed by the Japanese. So it's a bad idea. Shouldn't do those kind of things. Shouldn't interfere. Just let whoever wants to take over the world, the rest of the world, do so. I think that's really short-sighted, and I think it's imbecilic to think that there's something better than a democracy. I mean, what's your suggestion? Who should be making those decisions if it's not the people?
In a sense, everyone is working for the government. We work, and the government gets our money. We have no choice but to work for the government. If we have no choice whether or not we want to work for the government, then we are slaves. Taxation, by definition, is robbery. It doesn't matter if you receive goods or not.
Taxation's been around as long as civilization has been around. It's the price of civilization. It's, you know, Rome built canals, Rome built roads, you know, the road to Rome, you know, the old line. Yeah, that's how it works, and you have to tax to get acquire the resources to do those kind of things. And yeah, there's no, like I said, you're not going to come up with a system, you're not even suggesting one, about who decides who builds what infrastructure and who has to pay for it. And it's just silly to think that any of that stuff can be done voluntarily. People are just going to voluntarily contribute to the, yes, let's build a road fund. It just isn't going to happen. And infrastructure especially, you can't have 400 companies running their electric lines all over the friggin' place. That's not going to work. There has to be a infrastructure foundation that they all can use. But you can't do without some organization. Organization is part of being fucking intelligent. Jesus Christ.